Good morning, everybody. I'm Laura Peterson, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So I wanted to go over the stats, first of all, for the week, and then I'm going to go over what happened in the month. And there's some very interesting things, in my opinion, when it comes to the inventory, and all of the doom and gloom and everything that everybody's talking about isn't exactly as doom and gloom. And we'll explain to you a little bit why the prices haven't been decreasing or anything like that. And actually, they've been increasing. So the single family homes that sold last week were 456. They were 441 the week before. The median price is 450, and it was around 440, I believe, the week before. So just a slight change, and just within the margin of error, whatever, it's the range that we look at when we're looking at it at that point in time. The inventory increased by 100 and is at 6702. And so basically, when you're looking at that and how that shakes down, of the 456 that sold, 31 of them were under 250, 34 were between 250 and 300, 113 were between 300 and 400, 89 between 400 and 500, 160 between 500 and a million, and 29 over a million. So the thing that I've noticed as the weeks have gone on is the number between 250 and 300 is a lot less than it used to be. And that just makes sense with the amount that everything's increasing. Because we used to be kind of the median would range between 375 to 400. Then it kind of went from 400 to 425. And now we're 450 kind of to 500 is kind of where our median kind of, ranges and everything on a week-to-week basis. But this week we are, as I mentioned, at 450. So basically, when you're looking at that, then the next thing that is to ask price ratio. And overall, it's at 97.82. It's at 96.29 under 250. 97.9, 250 to 300, 97.77, 98.66 is between 400 and 500, 98.53 between 500 and a million, and then we go down to 96.05 over a million. So again, in those middle ranges where there's a lot more houses being sold, it's a lot closer to asking prices at like 98.8 and 98.53. And the average days on the market are 52, which isn't terrible at all. But the months of inventory, when we're looking at that, overall is at 3.39. Under 250 is at 2.55 months, 2.17 between 250 and 300. Again, 2.57 between 300 and 400. 3.65 between 400 and 500, 3.74, 500 and a million, and 6.21 in a million, over a million. So a little more inventory there, which shows why there's more properties and everything that are available, kind of in that price range and that kind of stuff, like we talked about. So the next thing that I want to talk about then are the condos, townhomes, and villas. So just give me a second. I'm going to pull that up. Okay, I just lost my place there for a little bit. So the condos, townhomes, and villas were 151 this week. That was 108 the week before prior to that. The median price was 267. And then the the inventory actually increased by 54, and that's at 3340. So when we're looking at the breakdown of those, obviously there's a lot more that are happening in that price point of actually the, under 250 there, because, they're a little bit less and everything like that. So of the 151, 67 of them were under 250. 30 were between 250 and 300. There were 33 between 300 and 400, 15 between 400 and 500, 6 between 500 and a million, and none of them sold over a million. So when we're looking at the list ask price there, they're at 97.01, pretty similar. Under 250, they sold at 95.4. 250 to 300 was at 96.91. Then we go to 97.55, 98.23, 98.56, even between 500 and a million. And like I said, nothing over a million sold. There are 17 on the market over a million, which isn't a lot. But the week before we had 2 that sold over a million. So we're not showing the months of inventory because there weren't any sold, so we can't come up with that. But the months of inventory in the condos, townhomes, and villas are quite a bit more than the single family homes. We're at 5.10 months here overall. Under 250 is at 4.01, 3.68, 250 to 300, 6.6, 300 to 400, 7.2, 400 to 500, and 12.77, 500 to a million. So, the inventory is quite a bit, but the prices are staying pretty consistent there. The days on the market to contract generally is about the same at 51. So overall, a lot of the stats are similar, yet at the same time, they're different. So the next thing that I wanted to look at was the state of the market came out, which is the whole month of May compared to a year ago. And this kind of gives us a better picture in regards to where we're at and everything across the board. So when in May, the average price that we're looking at and the median price, we're always looking at the median price when I'm given these stats. And like I said, for the single family homes this week, it's at 450. Now for the month of May, it's got overall, we're at 385. And the reason it's so much less is because this does not separate out the single family homes and the condos, townhomes, and villas. So that's why I like what we report about every month or every week, because basically when it comes down to it, real estate, first of all, is very focused on what you have, but it's more microcosm than that. It actually goes down to the nitty-gritty of that specific neighborhood or whatever. And so if you're interested in that, there's no obligation or anything at any point in time. But if you did want to know that, just give us a call at 407-566-2555, and we'll be more than happy to make sure that we do have everything all set out for you in regards to that and for your particular neighborhood, what's going on, or your community or zip code or whatever, because it does get very granular. And in some zip codes, it's like part of it is one price and another part is another price. So when I'm looking at what's going on in a neighborhood, I'm looking at usually that particular subdivision, and everything exclusively. We're looking at what's going on around it, but that neighborhood's going to tell us absolutely what's happening. So, for example, in 32824, which is, Meadowwoods, and it's Sawgrass, and it's also some other neighborhoods and that kind of thing in there. There is a huge difference between Sawgrass and Meadowwoods, for example, and some of those other neighborhoods that are in there as well. So if I was just comparing Sawgrass to everything else that was happening in there, I would be way overstating what was going on in those particular houses. So you have to be careful on that. But anyway, basically, when you're looking at the median price from year over year, 385 to 378, which is only a 2% increase year over year. The average price went from 482 now to 458 before. So that's a 5.3% increase. So basically overall, I would look at the average and say that there is a 5% increase, from this year to last year, which is a normal percentage on a day-to-day basis. So that's actually awesome for what we're looking for and everything. The inventory pretty much has almost doubled from 10,282 is what it is today, and it was 5149. And that might be something that you might think, oh, that's something we need to be concerned about. And I'm going to talk about in the next segment, why it's not, and go over the rest of these stats. But in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we'll see you after the break. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Laura Peterson, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So basically, when it comes down to it, looking at the year over year, like I mentioned, the average price now is at 482,295. It was at 458,116 last year, May of 2023. So that's a 5.3% increase, which we've been sitting pretty stable. So we had that little jump and everything. So that's actually good. The days on the market now are at 54. They were at 45 a year ago. So up a little bit. The inventory, like I said, is at 10,282 versus 5149 a year ago. So almost doubled the amount of inventory. The months of supply is almost doubled too. So from 3.53 to 1.63. So, looking at this, there's a couple things that we want to look at. First of all, when we're looking at the mortgage rate, in May of 2022, it was 5.28 was what the interest rate. So it had started to go up at that point in time. In May of 23, it's at 6.62. And May of 24, it was at 6.58. So pretty consistent from May of 23 to 24, on the way up from May of 22. The months of supply of inventory in May of 22 was at less than a month, 0.98. May of 23 was at 1.63, and now we're at 3.53. Now, a normal market is considered 4 to 6. So that means that we're heading away from the seller's market potentially and heading to, to a normal market. So that's basically, what the bottom line is on that. Now, the number of properties sold, basically in May of 22, when the interest rate was on its way up but still pretty low, was 3,900 sold that month. In May of 23, we sold 3,150, and May of 24, 2,908. So the number of properties selling has gone down a little bit, but but it's only a couple hundred, so that's within an average, type of error and that kind of stuff. So I'm not concerned about that at all. The median prices, like I talked about, in 2022 was 445, 544. In 23, it was 548, 116. So not too much difference, about a 2% increase. And then today it's at 482, 295. So that's basically a 5.3% increase. Now, if we're looking at the median price in 2022, it was 379, 950. May of 23, it's 378, and May of 24 is 385. So really, the median price hasn't changed that much. So in my opinion, what that kind of means is that there's more condos and that kind of thing that are selling, but that median price is staying pretty consistent. So one of the things that I mentioned in the last segment that, we're looking at, and everybody's going to say, okay, the cause for alarm is that the inventory has doubled from last year. It's at 99.7% more than it was last year. But that is not the whole story. The listing activity seems to jump compared to 2023, but the numbers aren't properly comparing the broader historical context, and you have to look at the right comparison. And so that's kind of what happens, in the news, and we know that is because everybody's going for that story. And so what angle can they come from that's going to actually be something that stands out? Because everybody doesn't want the same old boring thing. They want to see something new. You don't want to know that the median price stayed the same over the last 3 years, even though the number of properties that sold went down and the interest rate went up, and the interest rate's the same as last year. So that shows some stability and that kind of thing. The number of houses that are selling or properties that are selling is not off significantly from last year. So everything's, pretty consistent when it comes to that. And we did have that anomaly when the interest rates were so low that everybody and their brother were buying, it didn't matter what, because the interest rate, the cost of money was so cheap. It made sense. And so there was no inventory. People didn't want to sell their houses because they didn't know where they were going to go. And now a lot of people are sitting there with really good interest rates. And so they're thinking, hey, do I really want to sell? Well, basically, the bottom line is that there are life circumstances that people really want to sell anyway. I know for some people that I'm working with, I mean, there was a death of someone, and so they wanted to do that. For some people that I'm working with, there was a birth, so they've got more kids and they need more space. With some people that I'm working with, unfortunately, there was a divorce, and so that's a reason that they want to sell the house and go separate ways and that kind of thing as well. And and then another one. There's some people that I've got that are moving into the area, and then I've got some people that are moving out of the area. They've got more grandkids in another part of the country, and they want to be there for all of their activities and that kind of thing. And so basically, when it comes down to it, there's always going to be life circumstances where people are going to be moving regardless. And so there's always going to be some kind of a market out there for those kinds of issues. Now, the people that have choices, that they're in a house and it's comfortable and everything's great and all that kind of stuff, and they have an interest rate that might be at around 3% or so, they're going to take a second glance and say, okay, well, how much money down am I going to put on that next house, and what's my payment going to be, and looking at it to if they've got enough equity in where they're moving to and everything, maybe their payment would be the same even at double the interest rate, but they just have to look at that and that kind of thing. But what I was talking about was inventory, and this is actually looking at the whole state of Florida. And what I was trying to do is I was trying to go back as far as I could to see, what the inventory was for Central Florida. And as far back as I could find the reports were back to about 2014. And it was consistent with what the state is saying here, what's going on in the whole state. So basically, this report that's looking at the whole state was going back to 2008. And in 2008, there were 240,000 houses that were on the market. And so this has got the houses and the condos and townhouses, separate from the houses and everything. But in the whole state, there were 240,000. Now, the kind of the mean rate, or the one that's kind of the average rate, I guess is what it is that there were 94,000, on the market. And so, everything took a significant dip and everything out there and all that kind of good stuff. And basically, if you want to see the graph of this information, I'm actually going to put it on my blog and everything, which is, our home, Florida. Our Florida home sale, our Florida home sale. Oh my gosh, I'm not sure exactly what it is. I'll put it on the Central Florida Real Estate Radio, Facebook page, what it is and everything as well. But basically, it's ourfloridahomesearch.com. That's what it is. So sorry about that. Ourfloridahomesearch.com. You could see this graph if you want to, because it's pretty interesting, and it shows that this is for the whole state of Florida, obviously, that right now we are back to where we were in 2020, and everything before the after the pandemic happened. Then the market went absolutely crazy. The inventory went way down and everything like that. So even though our inventory has doubled from where we were in the pandemic, when everything was going like hotcakes, multiple offers, didn't have to be concerned about what price you put on your property, none of those kinds of things. Basically, the bottom line is that now you do. And so as a result of that, we are exactly right back to where we were in 2020. Which was kind of even. And we were, kind of sticking at that inventory all the way from 2013 all the way to 2020. It stayed the same, and then it took a big dip. Now, in 2008, which I'm pretty sure in 2005 is when it went up, because I remember that's when I got my license, and in September, the market just started inching up, and then it started falling in 2008. It hit bottom in 2010, the pricing did, and then in 2013 is where the inventory kind of evened out. And so it's pretty interesting to see. So, everybody that's talking about the doom and gloom, it necessarily isn't doom and gloom. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware and knew that. So in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we'll see you after the break. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Laura Peterson, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So there's a lot of things in the news right now, and a lot of people are asking me about the buyer broker fees and everything because there were some class action lawsuits, and so it comes down to basically, that there were some that the National Association of Realtors and some real estate companies were found against that the sellers actually won. And basically what it came down to, and, you might want to check legal counsel on this because I am not a lawyer, but from my understanding, it came down to that the sellers paid buyer commissions and they didn't think that was fair and they felt like they were mandated. And so as a result of that, there were some lawsuits basically, so they're changing some rules. Now, a lot of this, in my opinion, I think is good because we have done forever, for a really long time, where we have spoken with the buyers and talked to them about, them paying the fee, and what the fee was and everything up front. And so, we've already had these discussions with buyers, and so buyer agency is not anything that's new to us. It's something that, we've practiced a long time, and basically the bottom line is that what we want to do with that is that we are looking at that we as a buyer's broker, we have to show our value to you, and then you determine, what you want to pay us or if you want to pay us or whatever. And that's the way it should be, right? And so that's really what the bottom line is of what they're going on. It's no longer assumed that the seller is going to pay that fee. And when you really think about it, the seller really didn't pay that fee necessarily all on their own. The buyer was a party to it as well, because if that fee hadn't been paid, then the property might have been sold for less, because that was all part of the negotiations and everything. And if that fee hadn't been in there, then there would have been something else. But I think that they really made it easy for the buyer broker to get it. And because it was mandated from the National Association of Realtors that you had to do that's where the problem came in. Okay. And if it hadn't been mandated, then there really wouldn't be a problem. So what we do today is that we offer the sellers a choice that do they want to pay something to the buyer broker? And if they do, and most of them do, then, we find out what that is, and that's what we do. And then we work with our buyers, and talk to them and go through and show them what we're going to be doing for them. And then with that, then they can determine, what they want to pay for us. So the one challenge that has always been in play has been with VA loans. And those are Veteran Association loans. So for veterans, there was a rule that said that the buyer, the veteran, could not pay any buyer broker fees, and they couldn't pay anything for a buyer broker. And so basically, if in a VA loan, it came down to that it did have to be the seller paying whatever our fee was. Otherwise, if they were getting a VA loan. And so now the VA has temporarily allowed buyer paid broker fees. And so this allows veterans to continue to be competitive in the home buying market. And because they're going away with a lot of those fees, if the VA, if a veteran was coming in with a VA loan and, there weren't any buyer broker fees that were allowed to be paid, then that would obviously potentially be a problem. And so, anyway, they've changed that rule at least temporarily, and they are saying it's temporarily because they don't know what the long-term effects and everything of how it's going to be. But basically, what they have come as a proposal to the VA loans that they are no longer going to enforce that, and that's no longer going to be required at this point in time. And I know that that was something that was kind of a sticky wicket, for us at times. We always found our way around it and everything to make everything work. But basically, that definitely allows veterans to be competitive in the marketplace too. So if they don't have to, get the money out of the proceeds of the sale, but basically, when you're looking at commissions, it comes out of the proceeds of the sale. So when it comes out of the proceeds of the sale, like I was saying, basically it is not necessarily coming all from the seller or all from the buyer. It's coming out of the proceeds of the sale. So the seller might have put more in their pocket and the buyer might have put more in their pocket if there weren't these commissions to pay. And so basically when it comes down to it, the thing that I'm very excited about is that everything has to be kind of, understood and proven. So there's a lot of things out there that we may do as realtors that the general public doesn't realize that we do. And so they just look at that money that we're getting paid and not realize why we're getting paid that amount of money. And that's really what I think is so important for both buyers and sellers and everybody to understand. So when we're talking to sellers, we're going through the things that we do and why our fee is what it is. And we're doing the same thing with buyers and everything. So everything is clear up front in regards to what our expectations are, the buyer's expectations, the seller's expectations, and all of that kind of stuff. So everything is very clean. And that's what I think is really important, is that it comes down to that it's very clear and that everybody's understanding, and that, yes, of course, the fees are negotiable. And so, but we're going through and we're determining that up front, what those fees are and how negotiable they are, and what they should be or shouldn't be or whatever. And so basically understanding that and coming to that agreement, when people understand what the value is for what they're getting, they're willing to pay. And if you don't understand what it is, then you feel ripped off. And so basically, that's what it comes down to, is that understanding what the pay is, what it is that you're getting for that service, and then you're willing to pay it. And it's just like, for any service that you get out there, if it's internet, if it's a mobile phone or whatever it is, if you don't feel like you're getting the value and you can go somewhere else, then you're going to do that. But if you know that you're getting the value, then it's not going to be an issue. And so that's what's really important to us. That's what's really important that we do, and all of that. And so that's where we come from, and what we have always done. That's just standard practice for us, is that we're showing the buyer what we're going to do for them, and then this is our fee. And we're showing the seller, this is what we're going to do for you, and this is our fee. And basically we have, some pluses and minuses that you can add to it or take away from it, and that kind of thing that could change it and everything as well. But you're in control and you know what that is. And so that's what I think is most important, is that you understand what the value is. And when you understand the value, like I said, you're going to either decide that it's worth the money or it's not. And, obviously we've worked with a lot of people that thought it was worth the value, and we're very thankful and grateful, and, love to work with all of our clients, and love that we do have those repeat customers that are coming back at us and working with us time and time again. And that's really where it shows us that we definitely have done a good job, and that they felt like the value was there and they felt comfortable in working with us time and time again, which is amazing, because the average person only moves every, I think it's like 8 or 9 or 10 years right now. So the fact that we have so many repeat customers and people that we're working with consistently just, makes me proud to be a part of all of this, and, working with those people. But in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we'll see you after the break. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Laura Peterson, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So one of the things that I wanted to go over today was talking about that there is a new top location where everybody's moving for retirement. So again, when I was talking about earlier in the show, when people are looking for news, they're pulling this stuff out and they're saying, hey, watch out, there's a new guy in town and all of that kind of good stuff. But you have to really look at the numbers behind the numbers to see what really is they're talking about. So they're saying Sun City Center is growing faster than the Villages. And basically, it's just 30 minutes outside of Tampa. It's a 55-plus community. It's third on the list last year, and according to an economic analyst for Realtor.com, it's basically moved up in regards to where it's at. Now, the huge thing that I want to talk about here is that they have a population of around 31,000, and we know the Villages are way over 100,000. So the number of people moving to the Villages is still more than Sun City, but their population, percentage has gone up higher. So basically, when it comes down to it, there's a lot of options when it comes to 55-plus communities. And around the Villages, whether you go to Ocala or Leesburg or anywhere in between, there are a lot of other huge 55-plus communities that are also out in that area that aren't considered part of the Villages, but are still 55 plus in a lot of those communities, those counties and everything. But the Villages are so big. I just heard last week of two different people told me of different land acquisitions that had been made to add, several thousand more homes out in that area. So it's definitely still growing and all of that kind of good stuff. So basically, one of the main differences, though, is Sun City has a variety of condo, duplexes, and single-family homes ranging from $50,000 to $350,000. The average price is $315,000 for a single-family home. Whereas in the Villages, the average price of a home is around $400,000, and it depends on what kind of home and everything that you want, and probably the average price is around there. But a lot of the houses that compared to some of the other areas are closer to $500,000, and they're not necessarily that big when it comes down to it. The Villages does have over 50 golf courses, libraries, restaurants, movie theaters, and several town squares, all of which are easily accessible by the community's extensive network of golf cart-friendly roads. And instead of an HOA, the Villages charges a $195 monthly amenity fee, which allows the residents to access everything in the community. But basically, it just depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for somewhere smaller, maybe Sun City is something, but again, that's a town of 31,000. Maybe you want something a little bit smaller. Maybe you want something in Osceola County. Sola Vida is down there, and that's probably about 10,000, 12,000, 15, somewhere in that range. And then, Plantation and Leesburg, that's probably somewhere around 5,000 people, maybe even a little bit less. So it just depends on what you're looking for, what amenities you're looking for, and all of that kind of stuff when it comes down to, finding that retirement place if you want to do that. For some people, it's not an option of something that they want. You can usually find properties that are a little bit less in those 55 plus communities because everybody doesn't qualify for them. And so, like if you're in your 40s, you can't buy a house in a 55 plus community. And if you have kids that are living with you under 18, you definitely can't. And so because it's limited in the number of people that can get in there, then obviously the prices are a little bit lower because the inventory is usually a little bit higher and all of that kind of stuff. A supply and demand thing that just makes sense. So a lot of times people that are looking in that 55 plus area are thinking, hey, it wouldn't be a bad thing for me to be there because, my grandkids can come and visit, and they come, they might come every day, but they don't stay overnight and all of that kind of stuff. And so, that might be something that you want to do. But I think that most people move there for the amenities. They move there to actually meet people because they might be from a different area or something. And people that move into those 55 plus communities, that's what I hear from them more than not, is that they basically have the opportunity to meet new people day in and day out. And that's what they really like and enjoy. And those people want to meet new people too because they're from a different area and don't know their neighbors and everything too. So a lot of people, they have signs in their yard and what their names are and flags of what college they went to or state they're from or whatever. Just from that, just to get to know people and build that camaraderie and that kind of thing. And I think that that's really probably the best place for that 55 plus community is because everybody's kind of new. Nobody's been living there for 30, 40 years. It's, just new for everybody. And so as a result of that, they do develop relationships. And with all the activities, they have so many of them. They usually have hundreds of activities a month that are going on, whether they're sports related or card related or, ceramics or, whatever your interest is, they generally have those kinds of things available. And so that's basically, what the beauty of it is that to have an active adult relation, with a lot of people that you didn't know before. And that's where it's at in regards to why they grow and why people want to be there and why they choose that above other neighborhoods. There's very few people that I talk to. There are a few that say that they don't want to have a lot of kids around, but for the most part, the whole thing is that they just want to enjoy life and be with the people that are also there to enjoy life. They've got free time just like they're a kid again. Most of them are retired, and so they don't necessarily, have to go to work every day. Many of them do have jobs because they chose that and everything, but it might not be full time or as many hours as it was when they were younger and everything. So there definitely is a place for it. And I always tell people that if you do want to go in that realm, just give us a call and we'll definitely help you out with that, whether it's something new that you want to purchase or whether it's something that is, that's a resale or whatever your options are or what you want to do. We definitely help you through that and everything. And, there's definitely pluses and minuses to the really big ones and pluses and minuses to the ones that are a little smaller. And then there's ones that are even smaller than that might be what's of interest to you. So it just comes down to really sitting down and really thinking about that. And so that's what we're all about helping people do. And, just about out of time here, but our house of the week is actually a house that is in a 55 plus community. It's in Arlington Ridge, which is in, Leesburg. It basically is a 2,500 square foot house on the golf course. And so it's beautiful. It's got everything completely move-in ready. You're going to find that with most of these houses because they do have the pride of ownership and everything. And so it is a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath home. Most of these are all one story, obviously. And they're just a great property. If that's something that you're interested in, just give us a call and we'll definitely get you in there and help you find that. So basically, regardless, we're here to help, and that's what's awesome about life. We like helping people. So in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we'll see you next week. And remember, if you want to see that graph that I was talking about, you can go to our blog on our ourfloridahomesearch.com. Okay, have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.